Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Nicole Olet, the marketing manager here at Scribble. We're excited to be here with you for our Scribble chat called Making Sense of the Job Market and What It Means for Your Association. Just some Zoom reminders before we start off. Your audio is muted throughout the entire webinar, and we'll be doing a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. If you take a look at the bottom, the footer there with the icons, there is an icon for Q&A for the question and answer session. So feel free to drop them in there at any time and we'll make sure that we get to them. At this time, I'm thrilled to turn this presentation over to Alexey, the CEO and co-founder of Scribble. Alexey, take it away.
Thanks, Nicole, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We have a mix of current partners and future partners on this webinar, and I'm really excited to talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the industry, and then what some of the product roadmap features that we're going to be releasing to our partners later this year. So really excited to kind of go through this. Just to set the stage, what I plan to cover today is a quick overview of kind of the current state of employment, what members and job seekers are seeing, and what behaviors and trends we're seeing from our side on the hundreds of career centers that we power, as well as some of the hiring challenges that employers are facing and what the outlook looks like for employers, what it has looked like for the year, and then what it looks like for the rest of the year into next. And then talk about how you as the association and it can be the central hub for your members to help them navigate the current job market and the job market as it changes over the coming months. And some of the product enhancements that we're releasing to kind of address some of the gaps and really add a lot of new benefits for members that are looking for new ways to advance their career and are looking to you as the association for ways to do that. So I wanted to start by setting the stage and really kind of drawing a contrast of where we were about a year ago and where we are today. And I think the easiest way to do that is to look at what some of the major job sites out there experienced when the pandemic kind of shut the country down in March of last year. And the big job boards out there today are Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and then CareerBuilder and Monster, LinkedIn. And COVID had a huge impact on the recruitment industry and the recruitment advertising industry. And I think ZipRecruiter, CareerBuilder, and Indeed are good examples of how severely it affected them and some of the drastic measures they had to take about a year ago. So ZipRecruiter, which was a very well-funded company last year, growing very quickly, had to lay off 40% of its staff in March, which was about 500 people. Shortly thereafter, CareerBuilder laid off a third of its staff. And Glassdoor, which had been acquired by Indeed, or Indeed's holding company, also laid off a third of its staff. So in a 2-month span, right after the country shut down, the major job boards out there were very significantly impacted and had to make some difficult choices around employees and having to let quite a few of them go. All of that was driven primarily by revenue taking a significant dip. And I did a webinar in September, exactly about a year ago, in September of 2020. And at that time, job postings were down across pretty much all job boards, at least the major ones. Job postings were down about 25% for August of 2020 compared to 2019. That was actually well into the recovery at that point. At the bottom, job postings were down about 50% year over year, and there was a year-long recovery for the rest of the year to get back to kind of normal. But this time in late Q3 of 2020, job postings were still down very significantly for the major job boards out there. But where things look today about a year later is very, very different. ZipRecruiter ended up very much recovering in Q4 and into Q1 of this year, and went public and just reported their second quarter earnings and demonstrated 109% year-over-year growth compared to Q2 of last year. Granted, Q2 of last year was very depressed for them, but even Q1 year-over-year growth, they saw very significant and substantial growth. Indeed, which is owned by a holding company called Recruit that owns Indeed and Glassdoor, is forecasting a 65 to 75% increase in revenue for their fiscal year, for the fiscal 21 year, which for them is April into March of next year. So they saw strong growth in the first calendar quarter of this year, but are expecting that strong growth to continue for the rest of this year and well into next. And across all job boards, job postings for the first half of this year compared to the first half of last year are up anywhere from 60 to 80% for the job boards that we track, as well as the ones that we power. And despite certain industries being completely devastated by COVID in terms of hiring, nearly all industries that were affected have returned to pre-pandemic levels. And many of them are really thriving, doing really, really well. And I'll talk about some of those in just a few minutes here. So in a short, 1 year span, things went from quite bad for the industry and really recovered very, very rapidly. It was a remarkable recovery, and the speed at which it happened is we haven't seen in our industry ever. I think one of the interesting things to look at is some of the data that the Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out. And one of the metrics I like to review pretty regularly is how many unemployed people are there and how many open jobs are there. And historically, if you go back to the mid 2000s and kind of in a normal economy that not going through a recession, there's about 1.5 to 2 people that are unemployed compared to the number of open jobs. During the 2008 recession, what happened was unemployment grew relatively slowly, nothing like what happened with COVID, and job postings and kind of job openings started falling off rapidly. And so that ratio of unemployed people to open jobs actually peaked at about 6 people that were looking for work versus 1 opening to fill those 6 potential roles. And that unemployment rate to job openings dropped pretty slowly. It took a good 7 years for that to get back to pre-recession levels, pre-2008 recession levels. But from 2018 until February of 2020, we were, as an industry, in a period of time that we hadn't seen for a very long time, where there was actually more open jobs compared to the number of people looking, the number of people unemployed. And what that created for employers was a very competitive hiring environment. And there was very much a war for talent, and employers had a hard time hiring. And as the pandemic hit and the country started shutting down in March, 2 things happened. Unemployment spiked very rapidly, but employers basically stopped hiring almost immediately. And all of the open requisitions that were open were paused, hiring was paused, and companies had to make reductions in the workforce. And so the number of unemployed people versus job openings spiked in a matter of 30 days, which had really never been seen before, to about 5 people that were looking for work versus a single job posting. But as fast as that spiked, that as the country started opening back up, that rate declined very rapidly. And we were forecasting that it would happen next month in October, but BLS just released the July numbers, and it looks like in July there was actually more open jobs than the number of people looking, and we are back to pre-pandemic levels in terms of competition for people looking for work versus employers looking to fill roles. And so, although things got bad very quickly, the recovery was very, very, very fast, which again has never happened before. And that drives some interesting kind of job seeker behavior. And I think this is relevant for what you might see from your members in terms of job searches, or at least give you some insight into what your members' behavior might be like in terms of job searching. And one of the easiest ways to look at kind of broad job seeker search activity is to look at a tool called Google Trends. And Google Trends basically allows you to see how many searches and for certain terms are being performed. And they don't give you raw numbers of exactly how many, but they give you relative numbers. And so if you look for in Google Trends for how many job seekers are performing searches for the word jobs and compare that for the last three or so years, you'll see that in 2018, it was pretty stable. There's certain months and certain seasonality, and towards the end of the year, job searches always drop off. But it was pretty stable. It was a healthy amount of searches that were job seekers were performing. 2019 actually grew a bit, and then there was more activity than the prior year, than 2019. And in January and February of last year, we were at some of the most active times for job seekers. More people were searching for jobs, looking for new opportunities than they had ever been in the past couple of years. And then as soon as the country shut down, job postings went away, and so did the job seeker activity. And it dipped very dramatically and then slowly started to recover in Q3 and into Q4 of last year, again with Q4 seasonality driving some of that activity down, because most people aren't looking to change a job in November or December. But what we thought we would expect was that activity would start to pick back up in January and February, but the opposite happened. In January and February, March, and especially April, we saw very significant dips in job seeker activity in terms of searches, in terms of applies, with April having the lowest apply rates that we've seen in a very, very long time. And it started to recover since April, but it's been pretty flat for the last 3 months or so. And the searches are being performed roughly at the same levels as the second half of last year, which is pretty low and very significantly lower than 2019 and 2018. So why is that happening? I think it's hard to answer that question. I think there's a number of factors. Number one is there was a large amount of the population that was receiving unemployment benefits that was delaying some people maybe searching as actively as they would be, or accepting new positions. A large part of the population has concerns around COVID and going back into an office setting, health concerns. Many people during the pandemic took the opportunity to potentially change careers or reskill or continue their education, and kind of enter new industries potentially, and that hasn't happened for everyone yet. And then as unemployment benefits have largely expired, a new unknown for us as an industry is around vaccine mandates. And as more and more companies start to require mandates, it remains to be seen what happens in terms of, from the job seeker side, if more job seekers will in fact get vaccinated, or they will leave the workforce or change companies. And so it's a very volatile time right now, but overall job seeker traffic and activity has been relatively depressed for the first half of this year compared to pre-pandemic levels. And to kind of further drive the point home, the Bureau of Labor Statistics also puts out some really interesting data around how many job seekers are quitting, or they call it quit rate, but it's really how many job seekers are resigning from their current position. And it doesn't mean that they quit and don't have a job. It means they quit and probably get a job in the same industry with a different employer, or sometimes they'll leave their current employer and go into a different industry, but more often than not, they stay in the same industry and just change employers. And then the quit rate has been growing over the last couple of years, but has really taken off in the first half of this year, and to levels that we haven't seen in decades. And more job seekers are now changing employers or changing jobs than we have seen in a very, very long time. And that's true across all industries. But there's certain industries where this is especially prevalent. And for example, if you compare the quit rate of June of this year compared to February of last year, right before the country shut down, industries like food services, hospitality, retail, manufacturing, those employers in those industries are seeing larger amounts of turnover than they have seen in over a decade. And while those specific industries have seen a larger increase in the number of people quitting and changing to another company, there's almost, I don't think there's a single industry where the number of people quitting their jobs is lower compared to February of last year. And so what all of this means, the job seeker traffic being low, the more people quitting their job and potentially going to a different employer, is that employers are having a harder time retaining the talent that they have. And if they lose them, they're having a harder time than ever replacing that person that left the organization. And so this job seeker behavior is very, very interesting, and it's very interesting how quickly it changed, given kind of the economic climate and a year ago how different things were from the job seeker standpoint. And so this is a good segue to kind of talk about a little bit about what employers are seeing. And one of the things that I think it makes sense to start with is how has job posting volume trended over the last 18 months or so. And indeed, ZipRecruiter and the major job boards put out similar data. I decided to pull data from our own career centers that we power. And the shape of the graph is almost identical. The time frame shifts a little bit, and I'll explain what the differences are in a second. But if you look at job posting volume across all the career centers that Scribble powers, and look at how many jobs we posted in February of 2020, and kind of make that the basis for the rest of the months, and compare February 2020 of last year to every single month thereafter. What we saw across all of our career centers is in March, we saw a significant dip in job posting volume that continued into April. And the bottom was in May of last year, where job posting volume was down across all of the partners that we work with, about 50% compared to a few months prior, compared to February. And after May, we saw a very rapid recovery. And in fact, by August of last year, across all of our association partners, we were back to kind of pre-pandemic levels in terms of job posting volume. This is where the graph kind of diverges from what Indeed and Zip are seeing. Their recovery back to kind of zero or the same levels as pre-COVID was actually much later in the year, towards November or December. But our partners saw a faster recovery in August. And from August until now, we've seen basically a constant and significant increase in job posting volume, with a small dip in November and December, which again, if you kind of rescale that for seasonality, this would be kind of a graph that just trends upward, because a lot of employers tend to hire a little bit less at the end of the year. And in the first half of this year, we've seen on an average month over month, especially compared to last year, very significant growth compared to pre-COVID levels of anywhere between 60 and 80%. If you compare to, year over year for March, April, and May, the numbers are very dramatic, much more than 60 or 80%. And so from our partner side, we've seen a very rapid and dramatic recovery. And this is one of the best years that we've had for our partners over the last decade. And I thought it might make sense to kind of dive into some of the industries just to give you an idea of what we're seeing. I decided to pull some data that Indeed released because they do have a really broad share of the market, and I think it's very representative of employer behavior. And basically, they put out graphs of what industries they feel are booming and are doing better than the economy average, which ones are doing similar to the economy, and which ones are doing worse than the economy average. But even the ones that they deem as worse are still up compared to pre-COVID levels, double-digit growth in terms of job posting volume. So things across the board are up. Even industries like hospitality, which was very, very devastated for a good part of last year, even that is up compared to pre-COVID levels in terms of hiring. But industries like manufacturing, warehousing and logistics, retail, all of that had a very challenging environment last year and is a really booming industries today. And then, higher skill categories like finance, healthcare is a very broad category, mental health, physician hiring, all of that is all growing very, very rapidly in high double-digit growth. And so it's been kind of a very fast and remarkable recovery. And this year has been the number of job postings and the volume that we're seeing is very unprecedented across the industry. The other interesting thing is how nimble and quickly employers have started to adopt some kind of remote work environment. And what we've seen across our job postings, and I'm highlighting a graph from Indeed, but our data is very similar, is more and more companies are offering hybrid work environments, and some are offering fully remote or more remote than in person, and delaying returning back to the office. And for the first time a few weeks ago, Indeed actually saw that the fully remote jobs actually outnumbered the hybrid ones. And so it's very interesting to kind of see that. That's likely a reflection of job seeker demand in terms of how job seekers are looking to work, and employers adapting to that environment in such a competitive hiring environment. They're adapting and kind of meeting the needs of how candidates want to work and where. So what does this, at the end of the day, what does this mean for employers? What it means is that job posting supply is continuing to outpace the supply of candidates and the supply of people looking for work. Last month, or maybe it was in July, there was about 10.9 million job postings, but only 8.7 million people were out of work. So there's significantly more open jobs than the number of people looking. What that means for employers is they're getting less applies per job posting. The applies that they're getting, that same job seeker is applying to other jobs. So there's more competition for eyeballs and talent, and you have to make the hires faster before that potential candidate chooses someone else. It's taking longer to fill the same positions that they used to fill in 30 days. Those are now taking 60 days or 90 days in some cases. And what that means is employers have to spend more money on advertising, or for same amount of money for longer durations. And instead of buying, let's say, a 30-day posting, they're buying a 60 or 90-day posting. And ultimately, it's leading to strong wage competition. And sometimes that's in the form of salary, or sometimes that's in the form of benefits. There's an interesting slide that ZipRecruiter put out today. I didn't have time to include it in my presentation today, but across all their job postings year over year, they're seeing very significant growth in companies advertising new benefits, like industries that normally didn't offer healthcare and health insurance are offering health insurance. Industries that weren't offering PTO are offering PTO, or offering more PTO, more remote work, more benefits like continuing education. And so employers are getting creative in terms of what they're offering in terms of wage competition, not just salary, but all of the other benefits that they can to attract talent. This is particularly prevalent in lower skill work, primarily like warehousing and logistics and retail, where wages have started to go up very significantly, and employers like Walmart and Amazon offering much significantly higher starting salaries for their employees, and then going even further to offer additional benefits like education reimbursement and helping to continue with their education. But across the board, even in the high skill labor markets, there continues to be very significant competition, which is driving up either wages or benefit and kind of total compensation for job seekers. So I think this is a good segue to kind of, to talk a little bit about how we're addressing as a company and from a product standpoint, how we're meeting some of the needs of job seekers and candidates, and how we're addressing, some of the things that we're seeing from the lack of activity in job searches, how competitive it is for employers to recruit. And for us, this year has been what we call the year of the job seeker. And we've really focused a good part of last year and all of this year around building our product platform to help you as the association be the central hub for everything career related for your profession. And the way I see the association industry, the way I see the kind of career journey of a member is it's a very disjointed experience. Your members may go to Glassdoor to research if their salary is fair or if they received an offer, if it's fair. They might go to Indeed to apply to a job. They might go to LinkedIn to network and join a community. They might Google some articles on how to write a resume or how to interview or other career advancement articles. They might find mentorship through networking or maybe through the association. They might attend a career fair that's local. And all of these different kind of components in a career journey are essentially different websites today. But in fact, you as the association have a lot of these pieces already, and whatever pieces you're missing, we are trying to fill that gap from a technology standpoint. And our goal is to make you as the association the central hub for everything career related in your profession, so that if your members think of any kind of career change, we want them to think of you as the association as the first step, not just to find a job and go to your job board, but for every other step of the way in their career journey, whether that's exploring a new career path, to finding on-the-job advice, to find the job. At every step of the way, we want them to go to you to drive member engagement, drive retention, and ultimately get them back to the Career Center eventually to apply to jobs and help drive non-dues revenue by having great performance for those employers looking to advertise. And so a lot of the new product roadmap improvements that we're releasing over the next couple of quarters are driven around this. And before I get into kind of some of the nitty-gritty of the features, in the background, a lot of what we've been doing is harvesting enormous amounts of data so that we can offer that to your members in a digestible way and in a very valuable way to drive member value and member benefits. And so a lot of kind of the innovation that we've done is around resources in terms of career pathing, career guides, salary information. And for that, we need a really good idea of the labor market data. And so across our hundreds of career centers that we power, we are posting millions of jobs a year. But we're also, in addition to reviewing those jobs for content, we actually aggregate and kind of scrape the internet of career sites out there, and we scrape tens of thousands of them and process about 1 million jobs per day. And what that means is we go out to all of these different career sites for employers. We look at their job descriptions, and we do machine learning on each one of those and take all that unstructured data and put it into our labor market database, basically. And from every single job, we extract the salary, we'll extract their location, what benefits the employer is advertising, what skills the employer is looking for that particular job title, what experience they're looking for. And then we take all those attributes and we organize them by job title, by function, and then by industry. And what that allows us to do is a number of things and really drives our product roadmap in terms of the value we offer to your members is, this deep labor market data drives our career pathway tool and allows your members to explore career paths and help understand, what are the skills that I as a member need to have to take that next step. And that skill data is updated in real time as we process more and more jobs. And so if an industry is asking for new skills, those are automatically added into our labor market data. Our career guide module, which I'll talk about in a second, is a new release. It gives your members really deep insights into the pay that they could receive if they take that next step in their career. That pay data is localized, what skills they need, what experience they need for that job, what education, what are the benefits that you can expect for that specific job title. And then salary data, again, detailed salary data around each single job title. And then for us, in terms of helping associations drive non-dues revenue, we take the same data and use it as a sales intelligence tool to alert our media sales team anytime one of our partners, anytime we see a job posting that matches one of our partners that we sell recruitment advertising for. Meaning, if an employer, let's say, posts a mental health job posting, and we have a mental health career center that we power, our sales team is immediately alerted, and we reach out to that employer and help fill that role through the career center partner that we're working with. So in the background, we spend an enormous amount of time kind of building this data machine that's driving some really exciting features that I'm about to talk about, and some really exciting things down the line that we haven't released just yet. So the first is our career guides. And this is kind of an extension of our career pathway tool that helps map out your career trajectory step by step. Career guides, again, show you really detailed salary data. It's specific to your location, and it shows you salary data, the benefits offered for that job, typically in your area, the skills you need, the education, the level of experience, years of experience. And this is not just based on publicly available data like from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is, again, harvested from millions of jobs that we process every single day. And if certain industries start to get more competitive, then the pay gets more competitive, and we update that all in real time every single month. So this is a really, really exciting module we're going to be releasing, anticipated to release this sometime in early next year, and really excited to see how members receive this. Again, along the same lines, we're driving significant improvements in the search experience for your members. And so again, as members, since we're seeing less and less job searches, we want to maximize the number of job searches that we're getting and provide value to the members and keep them coming back and keep them looking at more and more job opportunities, so that the employers that are hiring are seeing value from the advertising that they're spending with the Career Center. And so one of the cool things that we're releasing is kind of a salary insights tool, and that's going to be embedded right in our pane view search. So we've had pane view for a long time now. Pane view allows you to jump from job to job without leaving the page. And so on the left-hand side, you'll see the short job description, but if you click into it in the right-hand side, it'll show you the job without like having to click on the job description, then click back and go to the next job. It allows you to go from job to job really quickly. Now embedded within that same pane view search is a salary insight tool. And so if you're in this example, we search for senior accountant, you'll see immediately what the average salary for that role is. If you start to drill down to a specific city or zip code, it'll drill down that salary to that zip code. And if you start to explore other job titles, all of this will be updated automatically in the search. So awesome member benefit to get them a small teaser of kind of what's embedded in the career guides. It's embedded in the search now as well. And along the same lines, in terms of search, we made some even more dramatic improvements on search in a number of areas. Number one is, as more jobs become remote, we've added a filter for employers to be able to say that this is a remote job. and that allows job seekers to search just for remote jobs. And additionally, it allows us to send that job to Google for jobs in a special way. And that job, if it's a remote job, will be more easily found on Google for jobs, meaning kind of more traffic to your career center that's not just from your main website. And then we added the ability for employers to post not in just one location, but multiple locations, and then specify an address. And if they specify an address, we now have the ability to have members look at the search results in a map view. And so kind of a visual representation of where all the different jobs are in your area. And you can very easily click the pins and see, who's hiring, what the job title is, what the company is. And if you click into it, we pull up the pane view and show them the job description. So really visually appealing, very easy to use kind of map view. If you've ever searched for a hotel room on Expedia or a site like that, I'm sure you've used something similar. Same idea here, or only instead of hotels, it's job postings and company headquarters. And once you go into a job, again, as more companies are starting to either bring people back fully in person or in a hybrid manner, commute times are starting to be, a factor. Job seekers have been accustomed to working from home for a good amount of time, but as more and more people are coming back into the office slowly, commute time becomes a factor in the job search and whether they want to take that role or not. So we've actually embedded commute times for every single job posting right in the job description now. So in the bottom right-hand side screenshot here, you can see what that looks like. And we show you driving time, walking time, biking time if you're in a city, as well as public transportation. So really, really awesome job seeker experience from not only the search perspective on the map side, they can actually see how long it'll take them to get to that position if they were to accept that job. So that's kind of a little bit on the job seeker experience and some of the innovation we've done there. There's also a couple really exciting things we've done kind of on the back end side in terms of what from a reporting standpoint and from a marketing standpoint to help you as our partner market the Career Center better. The first part is what we call the Scribble report. And this is a monthly report that we release to all of our partners now automatically that shows you kind of an executive overview of what's happening with your Career Center in terms of revenue, and then KPIs like job views, applies, how many resumes are being posted, how many employers are joining, what's your website traffic like. But we also go a step beyond that, especially for our partners that work with us to have us help you sell job postings on your behalf. And we give you really deep insights into what we're doing for you, and a lot of transparency in terms of our sales and marketing activities. And so every single month we show you, the account executive that's assigned to your association. We show you how many calls we made on your behalf that month. We show you how many emails we sent on your behalf that month to help promote the Career Center, help sign up new employers, and then ultimately how much revenue we've helped generate for you as our partner. So we're super excited to kind of release this report and get your feedback on it, and this will ultimately drive some of our quarterly business reviews with you as our partners. At the beginning of the year, we'll game plan with you what our mutual goals are, and this report will be a great way to kind of hold us accountable and give you a lot of insight into how we're trending compared to the plan that we outlined together. And then last but not least, we just in a week or so, we're going to be releasing our marketing hub. This is a collection of different resources that we're offering to help you promote your Career Center. We've been doing this on an ad hoc basis with our partners. One of our partners will reach out and say, "Hey, I need a piece of email content to send out to promote the Career Center. Do you have anything? Hey, I have an event coming up. Do you have a one-pager that we can include?" And so rather than doing that kind of manually on an ad hoc basis, we've really centralized that into a single marketing hub where you can download a ton of different materials like email templates, social media templates, event-related content, you know, a launch kit for when you launch the Career Center, a marketing plan. All these things are going to be included, and we're going to constantly update this marketing hub every single quarter and add tons and tons of content for you to be able to offer to you so that you can really easily help promote the Career Center and won't have to do a lot of the heavy lifting of crafting that content. So that's what I wanted to cover on my side. I know that's been a lot of content in terms of, you know, what's going on in the industry, as well as some of the product roadmap stuff that we've been really excited to share with you guys. Would love to open it up to any questions. As always, if you have any questions that you want to take offline, feel free to reach out to us, giving us a call here, or reach out to me personally. My email address is my first name, Alexey @webscribble.com. More than happy to field any questions, Nicole, if we have any.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Alexey. That was great. So I do have a question that came in. If I'm already a Scribble customer, what do I have to do to receive the newest updates that we talked about today?
Yeah, that's a great question. Nothing. We update these automatically. We will, you know, we will give you, we'll certainly give you a heads up before we make the update. If some of our partners have done a little bit of customization with us, so we'll work with them one-on-one to set up that transition, a staging environment, and then take it live. But for the majority of our customers, they don't have to do a single thing. These updates are rolled out automatically.
Awesome. And then I have another one. Do you expect the labor market to continue to be tight? Do you think that employers will continue to face tough competition attracting job seekers?
I do. I expect that to happen. I expect the current market to continue at least in the first half of next year. Yeah, we haven't seen any signs of it slowing. Job postings, a number of open jobs keeps hitting record levels every single month. It's taking longer to fill jobs than ever. And so the ones that have been open are still open, and then employers are adding more. Job seeker traffic hasn't rebounded. And so there's a big mismatch in terms of supply and demand. And I think that will be the case well into next year.
Great. And then there's a couple of questions around the Scribble report. So for one, obviously it is definitely beneficial to our partners that we are allowed to sell for. One of the questions came in is like, will there be a lighter version or another version of the Scribble report for vendors that we don't sell for?
I believe so. I think it'll be very similar. I believe it'll be very similar, just without the sales data in there, the sales activity data, I mean.
Perfect.
But I can double check. I'm pretty sure that it will be the case though.
Okay. And then I have one more that is more around just the climate for employers regarding the length of time that job postings are usually out there. And this person is going to remain anonymous, but in their experience, they've seen jobs that have been open for months at a time, with many applicants and interviews only to be reposted again, or with it to be extended. It seems that employers are oftentimes looking for unicorns or perfect fits for their requirements. Can you just elaborate kind of on the overall climate for employers?
That's a great question. I think that that's generally not the case, or employers are starting to reconsider whether they want to wait for the unicorn or they want to make some type of concession. And at the same time, it also depends on how urgent that hire is for them. If it's an urgent hire, I think they're more likely to make concessions. If they can wait longer, they may wait a little bit longer. If you're seeing a pattern where, you know, the job gets a lot of applications, but ultimately it gets reposted, implying that they've never made a hire, that may mean that the employer isn't finding the type of person they're looking for, or being overly selective. I would say across the board, that has not been what we've seen. I think employers are more likely to make concessions now, because otherwise otherwise the hiring time would be really long.
Agreed. It's definitely interesting times, I think, for both employers and job seekers. So I think that wraps up our questions that we had come in. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. And just a reminder, the presentation is available on demand. So a link will be sent post-presentation to all of our registrants so that you guys can access and share away. So thank you all again for coming, and thank you so much, Alexey, for your presentation today.
Thanks, everyone.